Have you seen this picture before? I'm sure you have. Do you remember this guy? This Mzungu guy who came to Kenya? And do you remember how Kenyans reacted to him? Kenyans were worshipping this guy because the Mzungu is your God. So Kenyans were saying that this Mzungu is Jesus, because Kenyans have been brainwashed to believe that Jesus is a European, except that Jesus is not a European. And so this Mzungu decides to come to Kenya and pulls off a scam. And he can pull this scam because they don't respect us. And they don't respect us for a very good reason. So he decides that he wants to be God. And the only place he can be God is in Africa, because this is the only place where you can find many people with limited intellectual capacity who can be convinced that a random Mzungu is God, because they've been given paintings, statues, cartoon pictures of Europeans which have been presented to them as God ever since they were small babies. And I think it's time we had a national conversation about who the God of Kenya is, because 2,000 years from now, when researchers are digging up the history of Kenya and they dig up all the temples and they look at how the population looked like, and in the temple they look at how the gods that were being worshipped by that population looked like, what are they going to say? They're going to be shocked, because they're going to discover that the people who are worshipping their colonizers and their enslavers as God, that the conqueror also ended up becoming God. And they will wonder, were there no men in that country? They will wonder, what was the intellectual capacity of the people of that country? That instead of demonizing your invader, you deify them and you worship the invader as your God. Now, this is a conversation that African men in Kenya do not like talking about. They never like being confronted with the issue of who is deity. Who do they call God? And why are they always on their knees, bowing down to the Mzungu as God? If you try to raise this issue, my goodness, it's like they're allergic to it. They run away. It's like the most toxic poison ever. Because it's difficult for any grown man to justify, even within himself, how is it that he's worshipping someone who's foreign to him? Most other races honor their ancestors and they worship themselves as God. If you go to a Buddhist temple in China, you will find the image of a Chinese dude that they are worshipping. You will not find the image of an African that they are worshipping. They worship themselves. If you go to Europe and you walk into their temples, you will find images of themselves that they worship. If you go to India, you will find Indian images of themselves that they worship. But the minute you step into Africa, into Kenya, you will not find African men honoring their ancestors or themselves. You will not find Africans worshipping themselves. Africans are always bowing down to someone else. The brainwashing is deep. And it is time we confronted it head on. So what does an African man in Kenya tell his child God is? When your small child comes and asks you, Daddy, who is God? Who do you tell them God is? Well, the good, in quotes, African man will immediately point to the Mzungu and tell his child, the Mzungu is God. And if the child insists, then who are we? The African man doesn't know what to say. So what does the government, a whole government, tell the children who God is? Well, the government, through the Ministry of Education, through religious studies, they also tell the children that the Mzungu is God. So this same Mzungu, who exterminated 1/3 of humanity on the earth. I mean, don't forget, North and South America, everyone was killed, right? Australia, 99% killed. New Zealand, almost 80% killed. Tasmania, 100% killed off. This same Mzungu gets to be God. He gets to be the angels. He gets to be the Messiah. He also gets to be the saints. So the African man will always tell his child, the saints of God are Mzungu. So are the angels. So is everyone in heaven. Heaven is Europe. Heaven is where the Mzungu is. Okay? That's where heaven is. And so, sure enough, the young people call Europe and North America heaven. Is that not true? Do they not call Europe and North America and even Australia, do they not call it Maju? Do they not call it Maju? So if where the Mzungu is Maju, where the African is has to be Machini. Right? So you can see the extent to which the brainwashing has devastated the thinking of the African man. To the point that he believes, sometimes I don't even know what to say. So how does a whole government, through the Ministry of Education, tell its own population that their worst enemy, their invader, the people that despise them the most, is also their God? So this is something that we need to talk about. And what this Mzungu exposed is the sheer absurdity of worshipping foreigners as God. He exposed us. He exposed the African men. The docility, the effeminate behavior, the weakness, the intellectual aridity. It was embarrassing. It was shameful. Like I always say, the last time we had men in Kenya was the Mau Mau. Ever since the 1950s, I haven't seen any men in Kenya. I've looked. I haven't seen a single man in Kenya. Well, I see a lot of, whatever I see is not male. It's difficult to call a slave a man. It's very difficult. The Mau Mau are the last men in Kenya who refused to take a knee and worship the colonizer as God. We haven't had such men since. Now, even without wanting to go very deep into theology, I think we should examine, what the Bible says. Because if the idea of the Mzungu God is supposed to come from the Bible, I think we should look at and examine what the Bible says about all this. What does it say? What does it think? What do the writers of the Bible say? Because the Mzungu is saying that he's getting divinity from the Bible. Okay, so let's look at what the Bible says without even going very deep into it. So anytime you encounter the prophets, they try to describe the divine one, right? Many of them, they take the trouble to and so you say, okay, fine. So the prophet is saying the divine one is this and that. So you ask the prophet, okay, fine. You had a vision. Because the prophet said, oh, I had a vision. And I saw him that sat on the throne. Okay. So, Mr. Prophet, how does he look like? What did you see? So the prophet says, calm down. This is what I saw. The hair on his head was like wool. Oh, so he had wool-like hair. Yes. Okay, so how does wool-like hair look like? This is wool-like hair. So you mean, Mr. Prophet, he did not have goat-like hair? No, it was wool-like hair. So the hair was not straight. No, it was curled like a sheep's hair. Oh, okay, that's interesting. Because I have that kind of hair. Interesting. So the prophet continues. And the hands and his leg, his feet, were like bronze. Okay, so the question is, how does this bronze look like? Have you ever seen pink bronze? Have you ever seen anything bronze? When people are winning the bronze medal in the Olympics, did you see how it looked like? Was that pink? In fact, the last time I looked at bronze, it kind of looked like this. Did not look pink to me. Now the other prophet says, and I was in the spirit. Oh, okay, you're in the spirit. And behold, a throne was set. Where was the throne set? The throne was set in heaven. Okay. And he that sat on the throne, he that sat on the throne looked like a jasper or a sardius stone. Okay, prophet, so you're saying that he that sat on the throne, and the throne was in heaven, looked like a jasper. What is a jasper stone? So you type in, you Google jasper stone. How does a jasper stone look like? Because you're saying that he that sat on the throne, and the throne was in heaven, looked like a jasper stone. So let's see how this jasper stone looks like. So type in jasper stone in your Google. Yeah, type it in right now. Let's see how it looks like. How does it look like? Is that pink? Does that look like pink to you? And the prophet continues to say, just in case you're confused by a jasper stone, he says, he looked like a jasper or a sardius stone. Oh, okay. I've never heard of the word sardius before. So I don't know how a sardius stone looks like. Okay, let's Google. We are lucky. We have Google. We don't have to guess. So you Google in right now. Sardius stone. Oh, is that pink? Does that look like pink to you? Is that pink? It kind of looks like this, right? Interesting. Kind of looks like this, right? So when you read the text, the biblical text, and of course we know pastor will never read this part because this part is telling too much. You're not supposed to consider such things, right? But from the text itself, it appears to suggest that whoever is seated upon the throne in heaven is not pink and doesn't have straight hair, has hair like wool and looks brown. In fact, I dare suggest that it would appear that the text is saying that the one who is seated upon the throne of heaven is an African. Oh. So that is what the text is saying. So if that is what the text is saying, where did the Mzungu come from as being the one seated on the throne? Where does the image of the Mzungu come from seated upon the throne? The text appears to suggest that it is someone who has brown skin and woolly hair seated upon the throne. So if you're a genuine Christian, why don't you follow the text? So I think personally, I think we need an amendment. We need a law in Kenya that outlaws Africans from worshipping foreigners as God. Well, because you will not obey the text of the religion that you claim to be following. You won't follow what it's saying. And there's no reasoning with you. So we need a law. We need a law outlawing this sort of shenanigans where a tourist can show up in Kenya and collect a lot of money claiming to be the representative of the one who is seated in heaven. This guy made his money. This wasn't a joke. He was going around making money. And of course, the African men were only too eager to give him money and to give him all honor. Like, did you see this video? Like, look at this video.
Tangazo tulio ni hili ya kwamba Yesu anaingia kiseriani na yote.
Did you notice something funny about that video? Okay, it's not funny, but it's actually sad. But did you see the guy that was standing in the street looking at the fake Jesus, the Mzungu Jesus, who was being honored by the African crowd? Did you see him? Did you see what he did? He was bowing down to the Mzungu in worship. This is an African man. This is an African man, a Kenyan man at his best. The Kenyan man at his best is on his knees worshiping the foreigner. Now look at this other picture. Just look at it. He's surrounded by soldiers. Now these soldiers presumably are supposed to defend us. But how do you defend us when you're worshipping foreigners? If it's the same foreigner who is attacking you, how are you defending yourself from your own God? See, this has to stop. The fact that soldiers could take a picture proudly with their God tells you that something is seriously wrong with the Kenyan man. Seriously wrong. And it's time this stopped. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Kenya's time has come. Our time has come. Your time has come. A time to succeed and not fail. A time to grow wealth and not poverty. A time to go up and not down. It's time for you to stop walking and drive your car. Stop renting and buy yourself a house. It's your time to get blessed. Join the CCV movement and together let us kick poverty and unemployment out of Kenya. Become a member today. Donate what you can. And remember that the CCV is the only political organization in Kenya that is squarely built upon Christian values, unlike the rest. We'll see you next time. Thank you.